Welcome to the Right Click Save podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy T, joined as ever by Calcio, my fellow host. We are delighted to be joined by Chillin today. We're going to discuss his explosive growth on NFT Twitter, as well as the general conditions in the market at the moment. Now, this episode was recorded a couple of weeks ago. There is some reference to me not being a doodle when clearly I am now a doodle. It's a little bit confusing. I think you're going to be fine. Let's get into the episode.
I wanted to start with, we've got a pleasure to have Alex with us today, and I got to start with the name. Did you spell villain wrong on purpose, or what's the kind of, I haven't heard the origin story of the name.
Yeah, definitely spelled the name wrong after the fact. After I realized I spelled it wrong, I just take ownership. You never like say you made a mistake. You just roll with it. And yeah, it was a mistake. But everyone that asked me, I always tell them, yeah, I did that on purpose. It's like a villain mentality to do shit wrong. But yeah,
I like it that Calcio's gone right for the jugular there, straight from the off.
yeah. Someone actually owns the actual real spelling, and I don't know if it got banned or not, but it was like a defamation account. It was pretty funny. It was yeah. They were totally shitting on the other account that I have. So pretty interesting to see.
I noticed it and I was like, hang on a minute, is this a meme? Has he done it by accident? But it's more actually, why did you choose the name in the first place? Like, I want to really start from the top, because I remember listening to your episode on the NGMI podcast where you did kind of go over this a little bit. And one of the things that you mentioned was you went from like 300-400 followers. You went in a space, got absolutely dunked on by like 10 guys, but that sounds really rude. But you did a good job of defending yourself in that space. And then from there, you've become probably the fastest growing person in Web3. What was the original story behind the handle and behind getting into Web3?
Yeah. Well, I was just a shill account. I straight up just shilled NFTs like crazy. I was an alpha dog, a Discord dog. And it just, yeah, you heard it. Eventually, whenever volume kind of slowed down, I eventually transitioned more onto the social media side of things. But originally, it was because I shilled all my bags on crypto Twitter, just everything I had, getting 1 or 2 likes. I didn't care. I was letting people know why I made a purchase.
It's really interesting though, because I think that that's the honesty we need in the space. I know I'm going to mention a controversial name here, but I've recently chatted to JF, who we're going to have on the podcast at some point. And whatever you think about him, I'm not going to go into that now, but he does just tell you how he thinks. And I think that's one of the things that people have gravitated towards with you. Totally different reasons, but the simple premise that if I come into a villain space, I'm going to get the straight up truth of what you think. And I was just curious, because I know we've obviously had the mutant debacle recently. Are there any projects that the villain likes right now? Is there anything that, as a big shiller, you secretly think we should all be looking at?
Oh, dude, I have no clue. I have no clue. There's so many. I would probably say the best indicators. I'm more of an indicator type dude rather than an NFT type dude, rather than saying a specific. I think I'm big onto the community at the moment. If I can see a big Twitter presence, that's stuff I like. I don't care what the floor price is. If I see it, then it's not just like a 1 or 2 day thing. If they're there for like a month, then I feel very comfortable investing into those. That's just how I know, like, you'll see like communities spring up and then they'll just be like there for a day or two, and you'll see it all over I'll see it all over my timeline, and I'll get like that FOMO. I've always lost going that avenue, but where I've always won, whenever there's a community that's been around for a month and you can tell that they're going to be here for another month and another month, long term, that's always a win.
What do you think the biggest change that we need in Web3 or even like Web3 culture at the moment?
The biggest change is the entitlements. There's 3 entitlements that are getting worse and worse. Seniority, people that have been here longer. You know, if I've been here a day longer, sometimes I'll hold it over people's head. The fortune side of things, you know, we saw with the mutant. I'll have a more expensive PFP than you, and I'll hold my thoughts and opinions over yours because of that. And then the last one will be fame. I have a bigger following than you, so I inherently think my opinion's better because of that. So yeah, seniority, fortune, and fame are kind of, they're stinking up the ecosystem. If we can rid those entitlements, I think more people, the bar would be lower. I think more people would be enticed to participate. But because I have all those bars set up in front of people, they don't feel like they want to participate. Not only the money incentivization has died down a ton, there's the entitlement. It's growing almost. I think the sense of entitlement is growing. So I'm here to remove all those.
That's definitely a skill though, right? Because we have it on the podcast. I remember when we first started making them, because you get someone on and they have obviously got something they want to say, and sometimes you're kind of thinking in a polite way, obviously, Jesus Christ, you're going on for a long time here. We need to actually get to the context. That is a skill set that you can't teach, and I appreciate that's probably one of the biggest reasons people have gravitated towards you. You know, the amount of times I've heard you just exit people from the space or whatever else you want to do, and it's the reason people are interested. But I kind of want to ask though, for you, what is the actual end goal? Is there something you want to get towards? Because I have a feeling that, say for example, getting 100k followers is just going to be another thing for you. It's not something which is massively motivating. What is the actual motivation?
Yeah, I get this a lot. Gonna do a big cash grab soon, so that's kind of a big goal for me. Yeah, no, the end goal for me, there is none. I just really enjoy it. I enjoy doing this. It's something I have passion for at the moment, and I'll go till capitulation. I'm ramping up as much as I can and seeing how far my human body can go, and that's it. There's no like real end goal. Maybe I'll do an NFT, but the cash side of things is not going to be a. Everyone's really waiting for it because I get it thrown at me a ton as like, when is he going to drop his project? And I am working on stuff in the background, but as far as like a big cash grab or an end goal, something like along those lines, there really is none. I just really enjoy participating in Web3.
Do you get like a lot of offers? I mean, just us doing the podcast, we get a lot of DMs every day of people asking for a million different things. I'm assuming that you get a lot of offers from people wanting to sort of ride on your popularity and help bring out a project or even promote their project. Are you getting a lot of that every day?
Yeah, I get a lot. I'm associated with an NFT right now. But yeah, I like searched and made sure the NFT I'm associated with, I feel is very stable. Well, it has everything that I like. VC funded, successful startup founders, big team, a lot of developers. It hit all the marks, and I was like, okay, this is. I know, like it doesn't even pay the most, to be honest. I've already had bigger offers, but it's like because I really like the team. It's something that I'd rather. Like money I think is definitely on the priority list, but I try to always put that shit at the very bottom of priorities. Like it just needs to be met. Like it just doesn't need to be exceeded. There's no really point in exceeding monetary. It never ends well for me whenever I do go that avenue of like, I need to get to the highest monetization. No, never ends well. It actually ends with me quitting.
It's difficult, that, isn't it? The whole kind of policing side of things. So if people make you offers that promote our project, if it's something you were interested in doing, you've got to go and then work out, hang on, is this project genuine? Is this a rug? Because as Calcio said, speaking to JF, that's a lot of the trouble he got into was promoting projects that turned out to be a rug. And I find it's quite a contradiction with the space, which is about decentralization. Yet we're always crying out for, we want blue ticks on OpenSea. We don't want anyone to help promote anything that they haven't made sure it's not a rug. It's like we're craving for that centralization or that authority to kind of help us through.
Agreed. I think there needs to be a balance. I don't think this fully decentralized method will ever work.
No.
I don't.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah, there's gonna have I don't know how it would never work. It would just I can't think about how it would work. There needs to be but the problem is like little amount of centralization as possible. I don't know how much you think that I don't know. Like, can you give me an example of like where a centralization that you think is holding back the spaces?
Well, I think it's a balance, isn't it? Because you've got to cater for a wide demographic of different people. So not everyone's got the same technical skill set or the same amount of time that they can look into kind of researching into projects. So I guess we need decentralization that kind of caters for all, and that you've got options that people can rely on the blue tick from OpenSea. But then you've got a group of people that maybe there's a DAO doing votes on whether they think stuff is good, or there's just someone who's an individual, or even people that have made their brand and their product about looking at smart contracts and saying to everyone, yeah, I've checked this is absolutely fine to everyone to use. So I guess for me, it's like finding that balance.
Yeah, I there's definitely got to be a balance between centralization and decentralization. I don't think, I think that's probably the best avenue of approach. And then just adding in little bits of centralization. And then once we hit that limit, and then, okay, that's all we need. And then we stick to where we're at.
Yeah, I guess it's like that pendulum theory, isn't it? We've been so centralized for so long, we're at risk of it going too far the other way. And if we're not, what we really need to do is find that happy medium in the middle. But we've got to go through the pain of over decentralizing a few things before we find the kind of the right level for it.
That's a great way to put things. I think that's what the goal is for all this self sovereignty. I don't know what your goals are and what the purpose, but yeah, I think that is part of the reason. Go full scale decentralization and work back from there.
I think one of the things that's always come across within your space is you do know what you're talking about, right? Which is not meant in a condescending way at all, but you get the snapshot of some of the clips you hear of you saying some brilliant things and just being fucking like angry and quite mental within what you're saying. But when you actually get the time to talk, you are normally really well articulated on what you're trying to say. And I wondered if there's something in the space aside from entitlement that you think is a real big what if question. So, we talk about VCs, we talk about these celebrities coming into the space and how they corrupted perhaps and brought too much attention too quickly. But then do you think that the VC funding is something which is going to be vital long term for projects to have?
That's a great question. Venture long term to have. I don't know. I really like when an NFT has venture capitalist funding. That means it's much less work for me. That means someone else has already done supposedly the investigation and reason why to give this person amount of funding. But I don't know, because normally venture capitalists, the way I understand they work, get, like I say, a venture capitalist 100. They're normally borrowing money and they're just sending out like a bunch of funds to a bunch of different locations in hopes, like let's say, like for instance, they have $100 million, they send 10 million to 10 different locations in hopes like one of them will like 20x, and then you'll end up with like 200 million. So does it benefit? I don't think a project needs. I think I don't know. That's a tough question. That's a really tough question.
The reason I asked was just because when you were sort of mentioning the project you were affiliated with, you mentioned that they did have VC funding, and I 100% agree. Most of the time, it's a good sign. We recently spoke to a project called Arty, who have got an enormous amount of funding behind them, and it's paid dividends for them because that funding has been used well, and you actually get a product before anything else. I think that's one of the keys for us. We've worked with or spoken to a lot of companies that are changing their model. They want to give their consumer a product and then provide additional value, but they don't have to wait for their funds to be used. And that's why I asked. I was just super curious because I know that most recently, obviously the Meta side, it would just happened. They've been hacked and all that kind of stuff. And I know you've got a pretty strong opinion on that. And I just wondered if you thought, or you could tell us a little bit more about how you feel about the metaverse side and everything like that, about the way that's happened with Bored Ape.
Oh no, not. Oh, they're doing. I'm probably too critical on them, but I really like the idea of like the metaverse. I really like the idea. I think it's probably. That's what I really like is the decentralization that the metaverse can provide, and it's like. I don't know what you think of it, but the way I think of it, it's like not only like social media apps. I mean, everything is now in one centralized. This is the problem. Then it comes into a centralized location. Like you get which one is going to be the metaverse? Is it going to be the other side? Is it going to be the central? That's the problem. There's going to be a level of centralization. You could say it's on a certain blockchain. That's kind of the biggest holdback, but I really like the idea of the metaverse, of everything pretty much rolling together. I mean, this is the decentralization, for instance, like you'll have like games intermingle, and we see this already in like Xbox, PlayStation. We're seeing like cross-compatible games, but take that one step further, and I think that's the metaverse, like where you can have like a Fortnite character playing in a Halo game. That's like, yeah. So those barriers will come down via the metaverse.
And it's always been an issue, hasn't it? That the whole I'm a big gamer. I have been for a long time. A lot of my friends are on different kind of platforms. So especially when we're growing up, half of us were Xbox, half of us were PlayStation. It was a big issue. We were never able to play together. And still now, there's still problems with cross-platform, especially between sort of Sony and Microsoft. And it would be great if NFTs can be the sort of big breaker down of barriers. And I think there's a lot of work going into those kind of cross-platform protocols so that kind of models and skins and customizations could be potentially ported between between games. I think only when that does actually happen, that is a real utility that could provide that kind of mass onboarding that we're all looking for, because it's actually useful for people. But until we get past this that kind of gimmick stage that we're very much in at the moment, we're never going to see that kind of mass onboarding event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets back to everyone, the creator, the consumer, and then you think like you're seeing Twitter content. And imagine like if you could mesh in TikTok content, because Twitter like will inadvertently like not purposefully want to keep you on their app, so they'll do things that in their algorithm, the way things are formed, way things are like will be promoted. Everything that is going to be promoted is something that's going to want to entice you to stay onto Twitter. Everything that's going to want to take you off Twitter, they're going to inherently like quote unquote shadow ban it. But we're going to take down the social media walls that and then now like you create something, it's shared within that quote unquote metaverse. I think that creator has that. It's just bringing people together, knocking down all the walls. TikTok tries to keep you on TikTok. Twitter tries to they'll break down that barrier where you have like TikTok and Twitter coming together. The creators will come together, the people that consume content, just everything. And yeah, I think the easiest way to kind of explain is that whole console like cross compatibility. But then you take it one step further, like game compatibility. Like I said, Halo and Fortnite will literally be in the same game, and that we could go down that path. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I think the metaverse will be, ideally.
Do you have any sort of personal use case you think, just the gaming side of it? Do you ever see yourself doing sort of business in the metaverse?
Absolutely. I mean, like when I look at Statistica, look at like the amount of hours that are being spent online. It just seems like a natural trend is going to be going up. And me in particular, I spend more and more every year. I feel like I spend another hour on the internet per day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can only imagine people younger than me. They're probably they're growing up in that environment. Says I'm 33, so you're thinking I'm probably, I don't know. I just think that it will end up being like that. Everything will be done via online really soon.
Like for me, so I'm 24, so a smidgen younger than both of you, but that's almost exactly what I experienced already. Like I remember being the latter end of being at school, and it was just you had to be technologically savvy. Like my kids now, when they go to school, they have iPads. It's just part of their existence. So I think the obvious barrier we got right is just how shit a lot of products that we have are, which is why I was so curious to kind of explore the projects you might like. But talking of projects that we do and don't like, one of the most controversial topics at the moment that we do have to discuss is royalties, because traditionally it was project gets essentially their shareholders to buy their tokens. That raises a shitload of money. The founders then plod along and spend 6 months making money via royalties to supposedly fund the project further. But more recently, obviously, to Gods and Frank, they came out and said, we're not doing royalties. What's your opinion on the royalty argument?
Yeah, that's just outdated revenue stream that should have never existed. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And it's going to force innovation. Once you remove it entirely, you'll no longer be able to. I look at all the projects that collected thousands and thousands and millions of dollars. And then what do they really? No, like maybe 1% of people actually really utilize it. So we're catering to the extreme minority. And the people that really are going to get fucked are the people that create like one of ones, I guess you could say, like the legitimate artists. But these like 10K manufactured quote unquote Web3 businesses, they never needed that. That was just something that was in place for actual artists, and it got somehow the Web3 businesses took advantage of it, but it wasn't a sustainable model, and there's really no need for it. And it also, like, if you really want to talk about it, like it actually it wants you to pump and dump collections, because you get the royalties whether the price goes up, whether it goes down, it doesn't matter as long as sales are being generated. So it only promotes volume and not actually incentivization of like any type of raising like the underlying value of the asset that you bought. And the only way I could ever see it like actually working out is if you sold the NFT for a gain, you pay some percentage back to the team. But if you sell it for a loss, you pay zero to the team. That would incentivize the team to continue to raise their asset.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it does promote that kind of negative behavior from projects in a way. You're right. Like the churn of a project of holders is actually feeds back into their hands in terms of that generates some more revenue. And that's kind of quite a dangerous position to have for an NFT project.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just think that it's an outdated revenue stream, and what's going to happen from it? Well, all the ones that were relying on this for whatever reason are going to be completely phased out by a new breed of NFTs, and they will have to they will force innovation, or NFTs will die. So that's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get to a point where this is more sorted out on the protocol layer. So obviously there's things like ESE 721A, which means that they could actually enforce royalties on the actual transfer part of the smart contract. And I wonder if we'll ever get to a point where we actually have different NFT protocols for different types of NFTs. Like the profile picture, there's no real point in having a royalty feedback, but there may be like some form of membership club, or a better example would be an artist, where I think royalties, it does, as you said yourself, works quite well for a one-of-one artist. But I think for me, the whole thing that got me interested in Web3 was the fact that the code, it's trustless. The code is what's meant to, is what you're meant to trust in, not in a middleman to kind of facilitate this stuff. So I think to ever maintain that kind of part of Web3 within NFTs, I think it is going to have to be a solution that is solved at the protocol layer.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And that's probably, they have solutions to enforce royalties. They do, but the competition is just gonna, there would be really no need to ever enforce royalties whenever, well, there'll be no need to even participate in collections that are applying artist royalties. It just tells me and everyone else, the investors, that they have really no ideas on how to generate further revenue to continue this collection to grow.
Did you see the news story this week about Sushi Swap? I thought it was a good topic of discussion with you.
Yeah, I guess he was like fingering a horse or something. I don't know. Maybe you can educate me on it. That's what I heard.
I mean, I haven't seen all the details from this. It's just one of the classic viral stories that bounces around on Twitter that you get that I couldn't find any actual news story that someone had linked me to. I don't know how it kind of came up, but the reason I wanted to talk to you about is obviously the kind of, as you're right in the thick of it with the kind of the Twitter spaces that you do right in the viral moment on Twitter. I wonder what your thoughts are on this kind of story coming out and the kind of trial by viral that we get.
I avoided it. I'll be honest. It just was like, what in the fuck? It sounded to me like the CEO maybe was shoving his finger up the horse's ass or something. I was like, what in the fuck? Is this a joke? And then I looked into it and it seemed like it wasn't a joke, but then the price that went down over like 10%. And I was like, oh, days. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't know. I just avoided it because it was really weird. Fingering horses was just not. I know like I saw my favorite shit posters immediately go to Twitter and farm that, but there's just some things I just choose not to farm.
How do you do your kind of like, not research, but I guess research is probably the best word for it, into what you're going to post about in a day? Is it just for being fully engrossed in the space, or do you have like a technique that you go through and you have particular sources that you read and look at, and that kind of generates your ideas for what the kind of stuff you're going to talk about and post about during the day?
Well, right now, so a lot of it is just self-thought, but a lot of it is it doesn't require much effort anymore to put out tweets. Dude, like my tweets today. Did DGods file an SEC report with Yuga? The SEC investigation is coincidental. It's just like literally 5-word tweets throughout the day. But I can't do that. I had to progress to that level. It took a lot of work. It took I think I'm at 50,000 tweets. So 50,000 tweets in the course of like, I don't know, 5 months maybe. So you're thinking like 10,000 tweets a day. So it took 50,000 to be able to get to the point where I can tweet 5 words and people will engage with it. So there's 80,000 followers, and to get sufficient engagement at that level with 50,000 previous pieces of information, right now it doesn't really require much for me to. I mean, you could give me 5 words and it will get amazing engagement.
Yeah, nice. And how does that integrate with your kind of like life, I guess? You know, how does because you have to be a constant presence, right? Just for me promoting our podcast account and doing the Twitter, and then also the work that I have to do. It's a lot of work. You have to on it. You have to have like a schedule for making sure that you jump on and engage. How does it fit for you around your normal life?
I always have my phone on me, and
Yeah.
dude, I just literally whatever I think. I don't know if you felt this, but there was a weird point in time where I had expectations on what I should be actually instead of just like blasting them out.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, like SEC is shutting down BAYC and NFTs, and 800 likes. It's just like 5 hours. It just doesn't. You just never know until you know. I never know until I knew, and I was like, it really was just me like removing expectations of everything and being okay with like a lot of these tweets failing. And dude,
Yeah.
that's like was so much of a transferable skill. Like realizing I became a much better thinker because of it. I think a
Okay.
lot of people do. I see progression in a lot of people's tweets. They go from, it's funny to see people like, you're like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And it happens. And it's like almost like you can see it happen before it happens. So pretty interesting to see. But do you have I'm curious, do you have expectations of your tweets? Like, do you really care about what you tweet, or do you just tweet what you're thinking?
A bit of both, really. I think like it's interesting because obviously we promote the account, and I'm a big kind of, I always trying to be positive on mine. So there has been cases where I've like written a tweet and then thought, no, actually, no, I don't want to, I'm not going to send that. But I think we're kind of approaching it from two different ways. Where I'm just looking to dodge controversy pretty much on my one, and there's certain topics like I won't engage with because they're so polarized.
Yeah. I guess I have no limitation. Although, uh, I'm more focused on the space. I feel like I've already conquered the tech side of things. I'm more focused on
Yeah.
how can I conquer the Twitter space side of things. I'm curious, how are the podcasts going? I'm guessing are your podcasts dedicated towards the NFT space, or are they more
Yeah.
generalized?
Yeah, 100% NFTs. So yeah, fully. We pretty much get a different founder on every week to come and talk about their project, and as well as that, we do our shorter form kind of 15 minute episodes where we run through just the general topics in the space. But obviously, our main USP being we're fully animated, so it's kind of like the people come on and realize it's our own little realization of the metaverse, really, in our own little way, where people come on as their digital identity. But yeah, it's been going good. We get good views on on YouTube. We're just about to start re-putting them out on Spotify as an audio only version. For a long time, I was like, no, I spend so much time animating the bloody thing. I want people to watch it, but we realised people want to listen to it too. But yeah, no, it's going well.
The animation's is amazing.
Thank you,
You're the
mate.
one who's doing it.
Yeah, I do it all.
It's actually amazing to see. So,
I appreciate that, man. Well, we've got you on as your reptilian renegade. Is that right?
you know what? I hate supporting them. But yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know. I flicked through the artwork today. I think it'll work well for the animation. That you'll be there. Although it did take me a while to find it. I found it much easier. This is like Magic Eden. I do like Magic Eden, but then trying to look through a collection on that it was really janky today. And I actually found for once in my life going back to OpenSea and being like grateful for OpenSea. So maybe OpenSea have finally got their act together.
I really like OpenSea UI way more than Magic Eden. Magic Eden,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You're right. OpenSea like viewing NFTs is much better. Although I do like trading more on Magic Eden, but just like viewership is way more, I guess, user friendly for me on OpenSea.
So one thing we always do with our guests is run through some like quick fire questions about their kind of experience in the NFT space, mostly regarding kind of like around trading and your thoughts on a couple of projects. So I'm going to jump straight into it. What has been your worst ever NFT trade?
There was like some Metaverse cards that I spent. I don't know. I bought multiple. So on Solana, I don't know. I focus more on Solana NFTs.
Yeah,
So there was
it's a good play at the moment.
Portal's NFT is like a Metaverse card, and there was a tiered system. And the top one was trading for like, I don't know, over $100,000. So I kept on trying to play like the next play, and it was working. And then I finally went like pretty hard on one, and it didn't work out at all. I think I spent like, I don't know, like probably like 50 grand, and they all went to zero. But the one unrealized one was probably this one called Phoenix Stanchion. I had like $100,000 in that, and they went to zero too. So, but I spent a lot more on those portal cards because of like my entry fee. Like the Phoenix was just like a run up, so that really doesn't count. But it did go to zero, and it was worth 100,000 at the time. So those are two plays that kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got them. I think anyone who's been in the space since sort of 2021 or before, you have to have had NFTs that have kind of tanked, or you've been rugged, or ... a million other reasons to lose money. It's the easiest thing to do in the space. How about your best ever trade? What's the big one that your showcase trade? Let's say.
Yeah, I minted a DeGod and I sold it for $50,000. So that was a good one.
Wow, nice. I like that. So we did a poll on the and I should have mentioned this earlier because we kind of talked about it. You mentioned about having PFPs that gain you kind of like trustworthiness, and we did a poll on the account today. I haven't looked at the results on what profile picture people think is the most trustworthy in the space. Now, I think early on it was very much always sort of punks and bored apes. What are your thoughts on? Is there a profile picture out there that you think when you see it, you're much more trusting than others?
So validation, I'd probably not trusting, but are they validated? Probably with you. It's Bored Apes. It's probably CryptoPunks, and that's it. Outside of that, and I'm very familiar with it because of the spaces. I see them, and just for some reason, I don't know what it is. I just want to bring them up as speaker more oftentimes than the other person. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Total mental thing for me.
Yeah, it's weird. You can almost see the trend of what projects are also kind of popping at the time, because all those bot accounts that you always get the auto likes on tweets from always have changed their profile picture to one. And I started getting a load of DeGods ones recently, ever since kind of Frank blew up with the Utes thing. I'm getting more and more DMs from DeGods profile pictures trying to scam me, basically.
Yeah, DeGods are the fate. I don't know. Since I was, I minted a bunch. Well, not a bunch. I minted 6 of them, and I don't know. I don't know. Do you like DeGods?
Well, I kind of like the artwork. I mean, I think the whole kind of thing's pretty hilarious, really. That it kind of shows a bit our space is a little bit paper thin. I think they've done a good job of sort of building the hype. Anyone that can drag their project off the floor when they had all those issues and drag it back to take it to where it is now, really popular, like strong community, really strong floor price. I mean, you've got to take your hats off to them. Massively veered away from our kind of quick fire questions there. So next one was, what has been your rarest reveal?
I've minted a one of a collection that was almost made it. It's like Decimus Dynamics. I minted the number 1 out of 10K.
So, nice.
But it ended up rugging. So,
nothing worse than pulling a one of one on a rug project.
Yeah, but it went pretty high for a short period of time, and then the whole liquidity pool got rugged. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
No.
Yeah. So, but I have rank 1 in there, so maybe I should go out and pump it. No, I'm just kidding.
Do it. No, what would your 5 words pump for this project be?
The 5 words?
Yeah.
Buy this right fucking now. And then put a picture of it. That's it. And
I like it.
You got to make people think, what is this? And they'll try to figure it out.
Right. If you had a magic wand and you could send one project's floor price to 100 ETH, which project?
Probably Doodles. I think they deserve it. Although they're not active at all, out of the Doodles, the Bored Apes, are you talking about a smaller collection?
Just I honestly, whatever you think project you'd like to see up there, whether it could be Bored Apes for all I care. I know you wouldn't select them, obviously.
I don't know. Doodles just have that art to them, but. Maybe Sappy Seals. They got a crazy community.
Yeah.
They would be dope.
They would love that.
Fuck, at 100. Imagine Sappy's at 100. People would lose.
Would they be too smug though at 100 ETH?
Yeah, they're. Yeah, I guess you're right. But no, that's it. I'm taking
They'll
it back.
They'll be smelling their own farts.
Yeah, but they're the strong. What do you think is the strongest ETH community?
It's a tough question. Doodles is one of my favorite communities out there. I think when you've got things like Bored Apes have become, as we say, very entitled, it's very much a rich boys club now. Doodles still has kept that creator vibe. And I think that for me is big as a certain content creator. That is a big thing for me. And I love the constant funny content that community comes out. And I think I follow, even though I'm not a doodle holder myself, I'd love to be, I follow more doodles than anyone else on Twitter, and I probably vibe with that community better than any other community in the space too.
They're like Sour Patch Kids. They're real. I was it the they like shut off their entire social engagement. It went like 60 days, and then
it was a long time. Yeah, I mean more so their actual community rather than like their socials. I think it's funny how the community's had such a big say in getting them to get their socials going and just being like, come on guys, sort your life out. And they've actually had to kind of respond to that. Because they were all just fully focused on the VC money and not really thinking about the community. And it was good to see the community kind of kick them into shape on that.
Yeah. I started picking on them when it got to like day 50 or something.
Yeah.
And then they got real mad at me. Like the community came out with their pitchforks and like telling me how I'm an idiot. And yeah.
Yeah, that's just classic Twitter beef, isn't it? Everyone's always got their pitchforks at the ready. So opposite question then, this will be one to get the pitchforks out. If you could delete one project from existence, which project?
Ooh, probably delete from existence. I mean, it'd be like a rug. I'd just delete one of the rugs but
oh, come on, you can come up with something more controversial than that.
Oh, you want well, maybe if I could. So I really like Azuki. Everything about it except for the founder. He's a rugger, so we got to get rid of his collection. We got to get rid of it. Delete it. Zagabond. Yeah, he doesn't deserve it. And they won't get rid of him, so delete the collection.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to end off, it's super interesting to listen to you guys chat. Actually, it's nice to just not have to talk and just listen to a free-flowing conversation about Web3. To round us off, though, if you could sum up the villain in a minute or less, how would you do it?
Yeah, so it's going to be an account that's going to bring complete transparency. It's not going to be bearish, not going to be bullish. It's just going to bring honesty. I think that's probably what I try to project with this account is just, I'm not going to be on your side. I'm not going to be against you. But sometimes I think I get the feeling that some other people may feel that I'm against them. That's not the truth. The truth is the truth. And that's kind of where I'm at with things.
Love it. We're massively grateful for you coming on. Big fan of your content that you put out there on Twitter and especially your spaces at the moment. Often very funny or informative to listen to. So yeah, thanks very much.
No, this was awesome.
And big thanks to anyone who's tuned in this far into the episode. We thanks you very much for watching. And if you want to give a little tickle to that like and subscribe button, we'd be very grateful.